Eddie Kingston is one of AEW's most beloved and relatable stars, and he has separated himself from everybody in the wrestling industry through his realness and the rawness that he relays in his promos. Eddie Kingston is one of the very few wrestlers that, regardless of if they're playing a good guy or a bad guy, he always gets cheers no matter what. And that is testament to how much the fans of AEW love him and how over he truly is. Tony Khan is very lucky to have gotten his hands on Eddie Kingston, as Eddie Kingston declined a contract from WWE in order to sign for AEW. Now, just imagine Eddie Kingston cutting scripted promos on Monday Night Raw.
My name is Edward Kingshipby and I am the Mad King. I want to fight you and take your championship. Oh shit, I forgot to point at the WrestleMania sign.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that would be pretty terrible. Eddie Kingston is not PG.
I'm not PG, I've never been PG, brother. Shut the up and let me speak.
But before WWE and AEW offered him contracts, things were not so easy for Eddie Kingston, as he always had a tough life and he grew up on the rough streets of Yonkers, New York. And since a young age, Eddie Kingston has always been a rebel at heart, constantly getting into fights and even getting kicked out of high school. And the only thing that truly kept him out of trouble was watching wrestling. Eddie Kingston loved wrestling so much that he decided to become a wrestler. And for 18 years, he toured the independent scene and wrestled for a myriad of independent promotions. On the independent scene, he honed his skill to cut emotional and intense promos that really tugged at the heartstrings of a viewer. On the independent circuit, Eddie Kingston showed off his talent to blur the lines between fiction and reality, as he constantly was in shoot mode, and he constantly expressed his true feelings in his promos, even sometimes being at the point of tears. Eddie Kingston wore his heart on his sleeve. Eddie Kingston has always had a knack to bring up real themes like the depression that he suffers and real life deep situations into his promos, and these things are not so pretty. So even though his promos were always amazing, they weren't always so pretty, as sometimes he would genuinely just vent to the fans or absolutely just tear into the fans. And as time went on the independent circuit, Eddie Kingston's heart grew colder and colder as he was getting older and older and he wasn't getting signed to an official contract from a major wrestling promotion. And Eddie Kingston became increasingly more outspoken and was more of a loose cannon and a truth bomb. Eddie Kingston's passion for wrestling was a one-sided romance, and he even said this: "No woman has ever broken my heart more than the pro wrestling business." One day, Eddie Kingston woke up and he was 38 years old, and the sport that he dedicated his entire life to still did not love him back. And he had burned one too many bridges, and he was tired of making stars, so he decided that he should just give in. And he announced his retirement from wrestling in early 2019. And he sold some of his wrestling boots, and just as he was about to move to Alaska, he had a conversation with his brother. And his brother had just welcomed a baby boy into the world. And Eddie's brother asked Eddie if he could help him to raise the baby to be a man. And Eddie agreed. But then Eddie's brother replied by saying, how is he going to tell his son not to be a quitter when his Uncle Eddie quit on his dream of being a signed wrestler? And in that moment, it hit Eddie like a ton of bricks. He just couldn't quit. He had come too far to quit. His passion and love for professional wrestling ran way too deep for him to quit. It didn't matter if he got signed or not. He had to keep going until the wheels fell off. And he absolutely had to see his dream out to the very end. And so he continued to wrestle. And during the pandemic, at an independent show, on a whim, Eddie Kingston called out Cody Rhodes, who was doing an open challenge for the TNT Championship. And just like that, Eddie Kingston got the attention of AEW and was called to do a match for the TNT Championship against Cody Rhodes. But Eddie Kingston wasn't expecting anything from this match. To him, it was just another day on his job, and he even expressed that prior to the match, he was broken, numb, and truly unexcited, because the very real possibility of him moving back to his parents' house was weighing on his mind. The real life situations that Eddie was experiencing in his personal life caused him to literally cut a promo and have a match that changed his life. In one promo, Eddie Kingston got himself over as he talked about how Cody Rhodes had the silver spoon growing up, but he had to survive against addicts and junkies. And he talked about how he had to fight just to get where he is, but all of Cody's achievements were given to him on a silver platter. Eddie and Cody wrestled an amazing match, and Cody picked up the win to retain the TNT title, but this match put the spotlight on Eddie Kingston, as it really solidified that he was one hell of a fighter and a brilliant storyteller. And after the match, Eddie Kingston cut a post-match promo where he was genuinely almost crying, saying that he chose to have nothing else in his life but professional wrestling, and that he was going to keep on going until he can't go anymore. And just like that, the stars were aligning, and people on social media were begging AEW to sign Eddie Kingston through the hashtag #SignEddieKingston. Despite the majority majority of the AEW viewers, not knowing a single thing about Eddie Kingston prior to his match with Cody Rhodes, they wanted to see more of Eddie Kingston because they could feel that he deserved the opportunity to get signed to AEW. And because of the overwhelming support of the AEW faithful, Tony Khan offered Eddie Kingston a contract. And just like that, Eddie Kingston achieved his dream and was signed to a major wrestling promotion. And now Eddie Kingston could look into his nephew's eyes and could confidently tell him to never ever quit. It took Eddie Kingston almost 20 years to become an overnight success, and it was so satisfying to see him sign a contract with AEW. And thank God AEW sent the contract to the right Eddie Kingston. They could have easily gotten confused with this dollar store Eddie Kingston.
You think it's funny to take screenshots of people's NFTs, huh? Property theft is a joke to you.
As soon as Eddie Kingston arrived in AEW, he played peacemaker between the team of the Butcher and the Blade and the Lucha Bros, and they immediately formed an alliance. But as soon as Eddie Kingston got them all on the same page, he let out a wink to the camera, which implied that he had something up his sleeve. This wink was directed towards the bastard Pac, who prior to the pandemic was in a trios group with the Lucha Brothers called Death Triangle. But he had not been on Dynamite since the pandemic started, so Eddie Kingston was effectively stealing his group. And because Eddie Kingston is so great at promos, he was the mouthpiece for this alliance between the teams. Eddie Kingston is so talented at cutting promos that when he got to AEW, he even cut captivating promos on miscellaneous topics like chocolate chip cookies, Halloween, and on Sour Patch Kids. Eddie Kingston is quite literally a promo goat.
That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
But Eddie Kingston really showed off his insane skill for promos in his feud with Jon Moxley, who was the AEW World Champion at the time. At AEW's All Out 2020, Eddie Kingston participated in the Casino Battle Royale, in which the winner would receive a shot at the AEW World Championship. And in this Battle Royale, Eddie Kingston was quote-unquote eliminated by Lance Archer. But afterwards, he cut a promo and he said that he was never eliminated from the match, as he never went over the top rope. And so he demanded a shot at Jon Moxley's AEW World Championship. And he said that Jon Moxley and him used to be cut from the same cloth, but Jon Moxley sold his soul to the devil to become a sports entertainer, which was a reference to Jon Moxley becoming Dean Ambrose in WWE, while Eddie Kingston stayed his authentic self throughout all these years. And just like that, their first match for the AEW World title was set on AEW Dynamite. And unfortunately, Eddie Kingston lost this match due to referee stoppage because he passed out from Jon Moxley's Bulldog chokehold. And what's interesting here is that he did not tap out. But then 2 weeks prior to AEW's Full Gear 2020, AEW announced that Jon Moxley will face off against Eddie Kingston in an I Quit match. And a segment was scheduled for the Dynamite prior to Full Gear between Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. And there was a lot of pressure on them to make this segment work, but boy did they knock it out of the park. This segment between them was pure gold, as Eddie Kingston lamented how he had to sell out and become everything he ever hated in an effort to become the world's champion, and that he has sacrificed so much, like having a wife or kids, in order to be the world's champion. And Jon Moxley said that he's surprised that he's getting burnt by his old-time friend Eddie Kingston, as Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston legitimately go way back, as they used to be friends from back in the day. Jon Moxley then reminds Eddie Kingston of how tight they used to be and how he even ate at Eddie's mom's kitchen table and promised Eddie's mom that he'd look out for Eddie. And this made for some excellent TV. Moxley and Eddie sold their I Quit match like $1 million with their sharp words. This segment really showcased how much Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston are perfect dance partners when it comes to promos, because they both have unbridled feral intensity paired with ruthless aggression.
Ruthless aggression.
And just like that, their I Quit match was set for AEW's Full Gear 2020. And this match was brutal, and it showcased that even though Eddie Kingston may not give you 7-star technical masterpieces, but every single time he steps out into that squared circle, you better believe that he is going to fight for his life. Unfortunately, Eddie Kingston picked up the loss, but it proved that he was very capable of turning very little into a lot, and he was competent at a main event level. After Full Gear though, Eddie Kingston's alliance with the Butcher and the Blade and the Lucha Bros began to crumble, as the bastard Pac returned after 8 long months away from AEW. And when Pac returned, he confronted Eddie Kingston for poisoning his former Death Triangle members, Rey Fenix and Penta Miedo.
Settle!
And the following week, after Eddie Kingston attacked Pac, the Lucha Bros turned on Eddie Kingston and the Death Triangle was reunited once again. And just like that, Eddie Kingston's alliance that he formed was dead. And Eddie Kingston was so pissed off about this that he kept on harassing Pac. So Eddie and Pac's feud culminated at AEW Super Smash Night 2. And it was a great match, as it was a meshing of different styles, as Eddie Kingston is a brawler type of wrestler and Pac is more of an athletic high flyer. But unfortunately, Eddie Kingston picked up the loss. Just before Eddie Kingston's match with Pac, Eddie Kingston's longtime friend Brodie Lee passed away. And Eddie Kingston and Brodie Lee were legitimately very close and had been very good friends for many years. Brodie Lee was even the one who tried to get Eddie Kingston out of his funk before his debut against Cody Rhodes. And Eddie even said that Brodie Lee believed in him when Eddie didn't even believe in himself. So Eddie was deeply hurt by his death. Despite the hurt that he was feeling, after Brodie Lee's tribute show, he delivered a heartfelt speech to the AEW locker room, in which he rallied up the locker room and told them not to forget Mr. Brodie Lee, as he was a great man. And Eddie also said that he loved each and every single person in the locker room. And this once again showed how real, raw, and caring Eddie Kingston truly is. And it showcased how much of a leader he is in genuinely difficult situations. RIP to Mr. Brodie Lee. And then at AEW's Revolution, in John Moxley and Kenny Omega's AEW World Championship exploding barbed wire death match, after Kenny Omega picked up the win, he left John Moxley for dead in the middle of the explosive surrounded ring. But just before the bombs were about to go off on John Moxley, Eddie Kingston rushed down to the ring in a last-ditch attempt to save his all-time friend John Moxley. But Eddie Kingston was a little bit too late to drag him away from the ring, so he sacrificed himself for Moxley's sake by covering John Moxley. And watching this live really tugged at your heartstrings, because clearly Eddie still cared, and it was so damn emotional. But then this happened. Despite how much the explosion sucked, the sentiment of Eddie Kingston still remained. And by the way, Eddie Kingston sold that botched explosion like $1 million. And then after this, Eddie Kingston and John Moxley formed a tag team. And Eddie Kingston and John Moxley's tag team was a match made in heaven, as both men are legitimately very alike and are real life buddies. Eddie Kingston and John Moxley's tag team had a unique, playful, and mesmerizing bounciness that was underlined with aggression-filled intensity. The chemistry on screen pulled viewers in like crazy, making them the perfect babyface team. And even though Eddie Kingston constantly got cheered as a heel throughout his run in AEW, this was the first time he was a babyface, and the crowd loved him even more. And so John Moxley and Eddie Kingston picked up a lot of wins and began feuding with the Young Bucks. And this feud with the Young Bucks was really entertaining, as Eddie Kingston and John Moxley drove their truck into the Young Bucks trailer one week and even stole the Young Bucks $10,000 Air Jordan 1 Dior sneakers. And their feud culminated at AEW's first full capacity show in almost 500 days, AEW's Double or Nothing 2021. And the crowd reaction to Eddie Kingston and John Moxley was massive. Their match with the Young Bucks was really good, but unfortunately Eddie Kingston and John Moxley lost this match. But it really showed how much the fans really do love Eddie Kingston and John Moxley. After this match, Eddie Kingston entered into a brief tag team with Penta El Cero Miedo, and they raked up a lot of wins, and this earned them a World Tag Team title eliminator match against the Young Bucks, meaning that if Eddie Kingston and Penta won against the Young Bucks in a non-title match, they get another match with them, but this time for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. And Eddie and Penta ended up winning the eliminator match, and just like that, the stage was set for Eddie's second attempt at the tag team titles. But unfortunately, Eddie and Penta lost this match. After this, Eddie Kingston's tag team with Penta dissolved, and he was part of a makeshift alliance with John Moxley, Sting, and Darby Allin. They were kind of like the Justice League of babyfaces in AEW, and this alliance was so aesthetically pleasing too. They always looked like they belonged on the cover of an album.
It's the one and only Digo Double G.
And then Eddie Kingston was called out by the TNT champion at the time, God's favorite champion, Miro. Miro is the Redeemer, and in his mind, he was sent to Earth to redeem everyone of their wrongdoings against him. And this was Eddie Kingston's response to Miro's holier-than-thou Redeemer gimmick.
Redeemer! My man! Redeem these nuts!
Got him!
Got him!
And just like that, Eddie and Miro's match was set for AEW's All Out 2021 for the TNT Championship. And Eddie Kingston's game plan going into this match was to go for Miro's neck, because Miro has a history of neck problems. And this match was every bit as hard-hitting as everybody had expected. But unfortunately, Eddie Kingston took the loss. After this though, Eddie Kingston entered into the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament, which is a knockouts tournament in which the winner receives a shot at the AEW World Championship. And in the first round, Eddie Kingston defeated Lance Archer. And in the second round, he faced the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. And in this match, Eddie Kingston gave Bryan Danielson a run for his money, as this felt like more of an actual fight than a wrestling match, as it was brutal as hell. Unfortunately, Eddie Kingston took the loss due to ref stoppage because he passed out, but he showed his fighting spirit by pointing the middle finger at Bryan Danielson in his last moments before losing consciousness. Sure, Eddie Kingston was out of the Eliminator tournament, but it really showed how much damage a fired up Eddie Kingston can incur, as Bryan Danielson's chest was redder than the straps of the old WWE Universal Championship.
Universal Championship.
And then from here, Eddie Kingston started feuding with the best in the world, CM Punk. And this promo segment between Eddie Kingston and CM Punk was as real as wrestling gets. In this promo, Eddie Kingston said that back on the Independence, he used to look up to CM Punk, but then CM Punk judged him and made him feel like he's not good enough. And then CM Punk said that he only judged him because he saw potential in him and he tried to hold him to a certain standard. But CM Punk said that he was wrong to hold him to a certain standard because Eddie Kingston is just a bum. And I'm no body language expert here, but it looked like these two men genuinely do not like each other and were unsettled by each other's words. The intensity in this segment was off the charts, and there was every indication that everything they said was rooted in reality. Even an anonymous pro wrestler vouched for the realism in this promo in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, as they said this: "I can fully vouch for Eddie's promo on CM Punk the other night. I was sitting right there in the IWA Mid-South locker room when Punk called Eddie and his partner at the time, Blackjack Marciano, fat, lazy, and unsafe. Punk buried them non-stop. I could see why Eddie hung on to that hate and anger for so long." Eddie Kingston even had this to say about this segment: "That promo wasn't a promo. He doesn't like me, I don't like him. That was something we wanted to say to each other for 15 years. That was 15 years of build-up for both of us." So clearly things were deeply personal between CM Punk and Eddie Kingston. And this set up their match at AEW's Full Gear 2021. And as Eddie Kingston watched CM Punk walk down the ramp, he had this sinister, "I'm gonna kill this motherfucker" look on his face. And also the look that Eddie Kingston had on his face is very meme-worthy. When mom says the pizza rolls are done, when you see ice on the kitchen floor and kick it under the fridge, what you see versus what she sees. Okay, I think I'm getting a bit sidetracked here. But anyway, CM Punk and Eddie Kingston had an absolute war, as Eddie Kingston even busted CM Punk open. And once again, this match showcased how much Eddie Kingston is a fighter and a brawler. And unfortunately, Eddie Kingston lost this match, but it elevated his name to a new level. And that's where we are so far in the story of Eddie Kingston. Despite Eddie Kingston taking a lot of losses in AEW, he's one of the most over stars because of how real and relatable he truly is. Eddie Kingston is open about his struggles with his mental health, and has even admitted that after big matches he gets depressed because he's not used to all of the love that he receives. But quite honestly, Eddie Kingston deserves the love because he's a beacon of hope in many people's hearts to never ever give up, no matter how dark the days are. Eddie Kingston's road wasn't pretty, but he got to the destination, and that's what matters. And in this way, he inspires a lot of people. And of course, time is running out on the biological clock as Eddie Kingston is 40 years old, but he more than deserves to be the AEW champion at least once, one day. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. But anyway, goodbye, you jobbers.